Hello everyone and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol battle report for the channel, and after a long hiatus, the Black Order have finally returned in a manner of speaking, which we will get to. But first, to cover the basics, this is going to be a 19 threat match between the Black Order and the Avengers, and features a lot of the updated character cards from Card Pack 2022, which was in an unboxing on the channel a few days back. So with that in mind, we're going to see some new and improved Black Order and some new and improved Avengers. So without further ado, let's go look at the details. So here is our Black Order featured today, and you'll notice that there is no Thanos. So how is it technically a Black Order team? Well, because of a new tactics card, although it doesn't apply until deployment, so we'll cover it then. But Corvus Glaive is the leader of the Black Order today, and he does give an affiliation bonus. It costs a tactics card slot, but that's all. We also have the new and improved Ebony Maw. We have Black Dwarf. We have Proxima Midnight, Corvus' wife of course, and the new Supergiant. Sadly, couldn't quite get Black Lotus. Not Black Lotus, Black Swan. Every time it's Black Lotus. We couldn't get Black Swan done in time, but we'll see her in the future, I'm sure. And their tactics cards: Psychic Shockwave, First of the Black Order, which is the important one, Price of Failure, Blood to Spare, and Shush. So it's weird that there's also only, I say only, 5 miniatures in the Avengers side of things as well, because usually the Black Order is massively outnumbered. But no, not this time, same number. So we're being led by the Steve Rogers Captain America. Been a little while since we've seen him. The standard starter box Iron Man, which has been updated slightly. His Friday AI is cheaper. We have War Machine, his best friend has to be here of course. We have Bucky, because he works well with Cap and his card has been updated a little bit. And then the vastly changed Hulk. For the first time in forever, we finally get the Hulk back on the table. He actually has decent defense rolls now. He's got a new superpower to help him with rerolls on defense if he needs it. And just in general, he hits harder. Although his passive, where he gets more dice to roll for attacks, the more hurt he is, has been nerfed slightly. He gets an extra die every 4 health instead of every 3 health. So a little bit of a nerf, but considering how much he was buffed in general, it's an important change. And their tactics cards: Avengers Assemble, Gamma Launch, Till the End of the Line, Second Wind, and Ricochet Blast. And here are the 2 crisis cards that have been selected to play today. The threat value is on the Secure, which is intrusions open up across the city. So there's the 3 Dormammu portals. You get 1 victory point for each one you're claiming, and you can interact with one to potentially teleport another one, but it depends on what you roll, and regardless of what you roll, travelling through the portals costs 1 damage. If you mess up the roll and don't get if you get a blank or a skull, I think it is essentially, you get placed by the opponent instead. And the 17 threat extraction is the Montesi formula, so the 3 books, 1 VP for each book, and holding a book, which you can only hold 1 of at most, gives you access to this beam attack here. So it's the standard kind of crisscross setup. The 3 Montesi formula books in a line here, and then a Dormammu portal is also in the middle of the map, and then we have 1 each on either flank. So we'll get both sides deployed and then be back at deployment. So both teams are set up. The Avengers are on your left and the Black Order are on your right. The Avengers have taken first activation, and again both sides have the same number of models. So this is the point at which the first of the Black Order comes into effect, so let's cover that real quick. If your squad does not contain Thanos, the Mad Titan, after deployment, when you would normally select your leadership ability, Corvus Glaive can play this card. Corvus Glaive gains the following leadership ability. It is now your active leadership ability. So he gets Right Hand Man, affiliation Black Order. When an allied Black Order character daisies or KOs an enemy, all other Black Order characters gain 1 power. This card has been slightly errated, so that the second sentence says all other allied Black Order characters, so it doesn't help the enemy if you're doing a mirror match. So that is the effect. It costs a tactics card, but it makes a much cheaper leader. 4 versus Thanos' minimum of 6. Although that's before giving him any Infinity Stones. So it gives you a cheaper option, which in turn could let you bring someone like Maw, who I didn't even mention, but Maw has changed quite significantly as well. The most important change, he has a role similar to Enchantress and whoever else has the role, where to attack him, if you're not willing to pay 2 power, he gets to use his Mystic Defense against everything, and it's 6 I think. So he can be very tanky as long as someone with a lot of power isn't hitting him. Let's quickly look at deployment. Supergiant is down here on the edge of a table. We have Corvus here. Black Dwarf, Proxima, Ebony. Then we have the Hulk. We have Bucky and Steve together in the middle. And then Rhodey and Tony over on this flank as well. So, Very interested to see how this goes. Let's jump into Battle Round 1. So Rhodey War Machine got the game started, moving twice up to the leftmost Dormammu portal, at least from this angle, to be the first one to claim something this turn. First up for the Black Order was Supergiant, and already managed to make a misplay with her right from deployment. The mental vampire that she is can only move small. She is very slow. She's tanky in a way of speaking, but we'll cover that if it happens. Well, I'm sure it will with the Hulk on the table. But she moved small twice. It was not enough to get her close enough to this portal to be considered contesting it. So that's a problem, because she was meant to be holding that. I also thought she had flight, but she does not. She can hold one of the Infinity Stones, but she can't fly, even though she appears to be flying on her base. The new and improved Hulk was up for the Avengers. He moved small twice to be contesting the central Dormammu portal. However, he didn't pick up that book, so what did he do? He spent his 3 power that he starts the game with, because he gets 2 extra, on Gamma Launch. During Hulk's activation, if he's within 2 of an allied character that's not holding an asset or a civilian, he can spend 3, chuck them, range 5. He chucked Bucky downfield, so that Bucky is right there, obviously not contesting this yet, but he still has a turn to do. Black Dwarf activated for the Black Order and moved up small twice into the centre as well, so we're primed for a CGI monster fight next turn. The difference, however, is that he paid 1 to pick up the closest book over there. So the book in the middle is still up for grabs if anyone decides to go for it, and that's probably where most of the fighting is going to happen as usual. So we'll see what happens with it. Captain America moved up to the far side of the closest book, just within 1, so he could pay his 1 power to pick it up, and then chucked his 5 dice shield throw into Black Dwarf, who was able to successfully block all the damage. He still generates 1 flat power from it though. It did get the ricochet, but there was no one within range. Proxima Midnight activated. She was behind that tree, roughly there. She moves along, she moved a move and a half to get her to where she ended up, which is contesting that Dormammu portal against War Machine. Wasn't able to do any attacks this turn though. It's also worth just pointing out, as far as stuff that's changed for Corvus and Proxima, their ability that lets them trigger a double activation between the two of them now costs 1 power. Second last activation for the Avengers was Tony Stark. He moved up to back up War Machine to out-contest Proxima on that portal. Ebony can probably still make it, but that would obviously make it just a draw overall, so we'll see if that's his best bet. But it's over to Ebony or Corvus now. So of those two, it was Corvus to activate, and he decided to go into the middle to out-contest the Hulk there, because that basically guarantees, unless Bucky decides to change tact, to go even that one out, that the Black Order will hold it, although Bucky can obviously just go hold this one. And that does kind of leave Ebony Maw with a little bit more time to think about what he wants to do. And it is over to Bucky to end off the Avengers' first turn. So Bucky moved into position so that he was claiming this back portal. He opted to ignore Supergiant because she has a role called Ethereal, which I guess we should cover now. She would take 2 or more damage from a physical attack, and she only has 1 physical defense die. It gets reduced to 1, and it makes her drop any objective she's holding, which obviously isn't relevant right now. So instead, Bucky moved into position, although from where he was, what else happened would still happen. He fired his assault rifle at Corvus with the rapid fire, that's the one I'm looking for, on a hit, which he did get, so he got 2 shots, 4 dice. First one did 1 damage and bleed on a wild, so Corvus is bleeding. Second one he fully defended against. In both rolls he had at least 1 crit, and for anyone within 3 of Supergiant, in any roll they make, if they have at least 1 crit, she gains 1 power, because of the mental vampire thing. So she just got 2 power for doing nothing, and Corvus got bled. So last activation for the turn, Ebony Maw had some decisions to make. He moved up once, and then his options were move in and make it a draw for contesting on that portal there, or perhaps use his range 3 attack, which would do a little bit of damage and force a move, but that would still only result in a draw, and it's not guaranteed they would get the move. So he instead just went for the guaranteed contest. Hopefully that's the best option. Maybe a little bit of damage would have helped, but with that we're going into scoring. So then about round 1, it's been a little bit of a low scoring affair. The Black Order have 2 of the 3 Montesi Formula books for 2 victory points, and they are holding the central portal there with 2 versus 1 for a 3rd victory point, so it puts them at 3. The Avengers have the 3rd book, so that's 1 victory point for them there. The portal up there is a draw. This is held by the Black Order. and Bucky managed to hold this one for 1 victory point. So that only puts them at 2. So 3 plays 2 in the Black Order's favour. Avengers retain first activation, and with that, into Battle Round 2. So it was the Hulk who got Battle Round 2 started, even though he didn't end up moving a single step. He stayed where he was, and he started with his new basic attack, which is just a smash or a strike. 7 dice now though, and he was looking for a wild. He did it on Corvus, and although Corvus has now moved, it was not from that basic strike. It did 2 damage, reduced to 1 because of the Glaive of Immortality, or whatever it is that Corvus has to lower damage received by 1 to a minimum of 1. But that gave the Hulk enough power with what he got in the power phase to then do a Hulk Smash, which is 8 dice. And on a wild does a throw, and on a wild also does a stagger. That time he did get the wilds. Would have done 3 damage, reduced down to 2 again because of the same rule, but did chuck him, didn't quite hit the building for any extra damage, but did inflict the stagger, which is really bad because that means if he wants to do something with his turn, he will just have to accept that he's still bleeding. So the first Black Order activation of Battle Round 2 was the Herald of Doom himself, Ebony Maw, and he certainly showed it because he spent 4 power on Herald of Doom, his best attack, 8 dice Mystic with a throw on a wild, and the target doesn't gain power for the damage, and it was the first spike of the game because the initial roll with 8 dice had 5 crits in it, amongst other things. He did 9 damage, reduced down to 8 because of Invincible Iron Man, but still very much enough that poor Tony has been dazed in 1 shot. He then did his basic Black Tongue attack, 6 dice Mystic, on War Machine, trying for that wild to get a Sinister Influence forced move. Didn't get it, but did manage to do 2 damage, reduced it down to 1. So he also didn't move, but he did a lot with his turn. Bucky activated for the Avengers and unleashed his assault rifle into Corvus Glaive, just hoping to chip off that last little bit of damage. Took an annoying number of attempts to do so, basically using up his whole turn. The first bit of damage there is 2 damage reduced to 1, the second one is just a single point of damage. But that was enough that Corvus is dazed, although before that, forgot to mention, upon Tony Stark being dazed, all the Black Order gained 1 power. And also Supergiant has also been fed some more power because Bucky wouldn't stop rolling occasional crits. So he did eventually take Corvus out. He paid 1 to pick up the book that Corvus was holding, and then paid 1 to interact with the portal to teleport away, because he has bad Mystic defense and Supergiant is going to smush him. So he wanted to go away, and he rolled a skull, unfortunately. So Black Order gets to decide where he gets spat out, although they can't pick the same portal. Check the wording of that very carefully. And he's been spat out in front of Black Dwarf, who's probably about to smush him, and he has 1 damage for travelling through the portal. So Black Dwarf activated, and much like the Hulk, ended up not moving and just swatting at flies nearby him instead. With Bucky being right there, he did his basic Axe Strike, which is 6 dice physical. On Bucky it did 3 damage to him, but he was still standing. So then he tried another one, and Bucky fully blocked it. And that meant that he had to go for his option C, which was to spend 3 for Black Fury, I think it's called. Pick up and throw medium. He chucked Bucky into the lake, or more specifically the little dock outcrop there, which I guess should have had the stuff on it to strike because he's larger than it. It's nice set dressing, so we're not bothering. But it did do the 1 damage needed that he is dazed. You can't hold more than 1 book, so Black Dwarf dazing him while holding a book is not ideal, and as a result the book was placed back there. So if War Machine wants to go get it, he's going to have to play fetch. So War Machine decided the best bet would be to abandon that portal, at least for now, thanks to Tony getting dazed. Started with Avengers Assemble being played, so both he and Steve paid 1 power to move small, and then from where he was, 1 medium move put him close enough to pick up the book that was dropped by Bucky. Another medium move put War Machine right there, so he is contesting that middle portal, and that's where Steve ended up after his small move as well. Pretty close by, but not quite within 1. So Supergiant moved up to the far side of the portal she's sole contesting. Didn't really do anything with the rest of her turn in terms of her actions. What she did do though, and this is one of these new fun things you can do, she used Psychic Shockwave, which is a team up with her and Ebony Maw. I'll turn this over here. Supergiant and Ebony Maw can each spend 3 to play this card, thanks Bucky for all the power you gave her. Roll 5 dice for each enemy holding an objective token. They suffer 1 damage for each wild and crit. A character that gets damaged by this drops all objective tokens they're holding, and you decide the order in which they're affected. Doesn't say who dictates where it drops, but presumably it's just handled like a normal drop, which means the opponent does. Cap took 1 damage from it, and has as a result dropped his book within 2 right there. War Machine took 2 damage and has dropped his book all the way over there. and they only have Cap left, and he can't hold the two books, so that's a really sneaky, nasty time to do it. Well, last activation of the turn for the Avengers, thanks to Tony being dazed before doing anything. Captain America, he moved up to the far side of the book, paid 1 power, picked it up, and then moved to contest the portal that Supergiant is next to at least kind of stick it back to her a little bit. But that's it for his turn. He did play Second Wind, and he and War Machine both chucked in 1 power to heal 1 damage each, just to keep them both in the fight a little bit longer. And with that, it's over to... Corvus got dazed, so it's just over to Proxima for the Black Order. So Proxima did end up moving, however, did notice a mistake, made it before in the past. With these Dormammu portals, you drop all objectives you're holding before using them, so Bucky could not have teleported. Well, he didn't want to go to the middle, but he ended up at the middle because he was holding a book. It's too late to go back, so we're just going to have to play on with that as having happened. But he should not have been able to take the portal while holding the book. It should have been left back here, but again, too late. So Proxima was going to do something similar, but obviously now we know that was a mistake. So she moved up, she paid to pick up the book, and from where she was, she did a spear strike into War Machine's back. 3 damage reduced to 2, so he is just standing, but only barely. So at the end of the second battle round, despite losing their leader to a daze, the Black Order are staying quite comfortably ahead, both in terms of like damage dealt and victory points scored. They of course all gained some extra power when Bucky went down, as well as Tony. But specifically points wise, the Black Order ended the turn with still holding on to 2 of the books. Black Dwarf has 1 and Proxima has the other for 2 victory points. Ebony Maw is the only person conscious, holding that upper portal for 1 victory point, and that's it. So that puts them at a total of 6 going into the next round. The Avengers have 1 other book for 1 victory point, and they are comfortably holding the central portal. It's a draw down here for this one between Cap and Supergiant. So, going into the next battle round, the Avengers retaining first priority for the battle round 3, but 6 plays 4 in the Black Order's favour. So once again, it was the Hulk to get a battle round started, and the third battle round started with him not living up to expectations. He did a basic strike on Proxima Midnight, 7 dice physical, nothing, and that does not mean she made a defense roll very successfully. He had no successes in the roll. So then he tried again, managed to do 2 damage, reduced down to 1 because of her invulnerability thing. Then he paid, well, I think it's 3 down to 2 or 2 down to 1 because of Cap's leadership bonus, to pick her up and chuck her into the house for a guaranteed 1 damage out of frustration. 2 damage all said and done, way below par for what he should be doing, but hey, he's holding the middle portal still, if nothing else. Corvus Glaive activated for the Black Order, very eager to get some revenge and actually have a turn. He started by using his big attack, the Death Blow for 4 power, 7 dice physical. He's allowed to do a medium move after it, and if he gets a wild and a block, he can do a flurry and do a free strike. And he did it on Cap and did 2 damage. His medium move put him on top of the portal there, it's actually under him right now. And his free strike did more, it did 3 damage. Such is the way here that happens so often. You do a big spend near attack and it does nothing or next to nothing. Then you do a basic strike and it does really well. Also on that basic strike that ended up doing 3 damage, Cap used Vibranium Shield. So he had 5 dice. And it still managed to do more. He dropped his book, or I think it was originally Corvus's anyway. But Corvus has picked it back up. And is now, well, he's on his wounded side, but he's now holding that portal alongside Supergiant. And Cap is not getting a turn. So Bucky activated next, and don't tell Steve, oh well I guess you can't because he's unconscious. He started his turn by using Hydra tactics to place himself within 1 of an allied character within 2, which was War Machine in this case, to put himself right on that portal. Then he used Red Fury's 4 power, 7 dice physical, and with a no size limit kick, which is, even on his updated card, it doesn't have a size limit, or push backwards, either way. And then followed up by a free assault rifle attack. So he did that on Black Dwarf, only managed to do 1 damage with the base attack. Shoved him back, did 1 more with the follow-up assault rifle shot he gets for free. Then he did an actual assault rifle shot on Proxima. First one did 2 damage down to 1 with the bleed, and then he got his free rapid fire, but it was a no success roll. The Avengers have definitely had more bad rolls in this game than the Black Order have, for sure. But he did a little bit of work. Safety play followed for the Black Order. They wanted to get Proxima out of dodge because she's surrounded by people who can still chip off the last of her HP. She moved along twice around the boulder here, all the way over, with a little bit of blurring on the way, to her husband there. Now, she did not get rid of the bleed Bucky inflicted on her turn, so she does take 1 damage from that, which puts her 1 away from being knocked out, or dazed, sorry. But she is over next to her husband. She's helping control that portal over there. It does mean that it's unlikely Tony's going to get over there without going through the portal. War Machine can probably reach her, but wouldn't be able to reach the book. So War Machine did make the effort. He moved into position on the far side and then shot some rocket pods range 4 because his beam couldn't reach into Proxima or remove the marker, but she did take 2 damage down to 1, and that is enough that she's dazed. The book dropped there. Unfortunately, he can't pick it up. He also, because the rocket pods did damage, got to do barrage. Actually, I don't even think it needs to do damage. Either way, target within 2, you roll against them with the 4 dice. Supergiant only has 1 physical defense. She should have taken 2 damage, but again, physical attacks only do 1 to her, although if she was holding any objectives, that would force her to drop them. So that's her first bit of damage done to her. And now it's over to either Black Dwarf or Ebony Maw or Supergiant herself. Well, Ebony Maw saw an opportunity to act on by doing another Herald of Doom on Iron Man. Thankfully far less successful this time, only doing 2 damage down to 1 on him. And then it had a throw on a wild, chucked him into the tree, so that's 1 more damage. Then he did a basic attack, his Black Tongue, 6 dice Mystic, and that did 1 damage, or 2 damage down to 1. Then, frustrated that Iron Man still wasn't dead, he paid 3, and this tree is actually no longer here, because he threw it into the back of Iron Man's head, and those count as size 3, because they are above average sized trees. He took 2 damage reduced down to 1, and that has kept him alive on 1 HP. Well, we're staying over here because Iron Man wanted to actually try and do something this game. He used Friday AI for 1 cheaper thanks to Cap, and then unleashed his Unibeam straight into Ebony Maw's face. Didn't have enough power left over to force him to use his actual physical defense of 1, 2, whatever. He was using his 6 Mystic, and that's what kept him in the game. He still managed to take 6 damage because the initial roll was fantastic against him. But that 6 defense dice just kept him alive on, I think it's 7, so he's alive on 1 HP. So then he tried to do just a basic repulsor blast to at least daze him. Didn't do anything. Fully blocked it. Again, getting to use the 6 defense dice just meant that he could take it and keep on kicking. So with that, I think that's the Avengers done for the turn, actually. It is. So now it's over to Supergiant and Black Dwarf. Supergiant moved over here to pick up the book that had been dropped, and then fled small down this way. It's risky having her holding something, because all you need to do is attack her with a physical attack and she'll drop it as long as it does damage. But this is to score some extra points and just advance that lead that they already have. And last activation of Battle Round 3, Black Dwarf moved up small to contest the centre, although there was no way he could get it this turn. Then he used Brutal End on Bucky, and it almost came true. He managed to do 5 damage with it, but on his dazed side Bucky has 6 HP. So he's alive just barely, but unfortunately is also staggered, so he's only going to have 1 action next turn if he gets to go. So at the end of Battle Round 3, things are not looking good for the Avengers. The Black Order have all 3 of the Montesi Formula books for 3 victory points. Ebony Maw is holding the upper portal, and Corvus is holding the lower portal. So they gained a total of 5 victory points that turn, taking them to 11. The Avengers, they only scored holding the middle portal. They obviously have none of the books, and no one is contesting the other 2. Iron Man's out of range and Cap is dazed. So they scored 1, taking them to 5. So 11 plays 5. They still have first activation in Battle Round 4, but it's not looking good. It does also seem like the old strategy of just ignoring the Hulk and not feeding him power still works pretty well. So it's fast becoming a trend. The Hulk was the first person to activate. You'll notice he's no longer here. Before leaving though, he did a Hulk smash on Black Dwarf. Didn't do well with the damage at all. 2 damage reduced to 1. Does do the stagger though, and he got the throw. Chucked him into the rock for 1 more damage, and that's all he could do there basically. So then he paid 1 to use the portal, which does result in 1 damage to him, and he didn't get a skull or a blank or whatever, so he could go where he wanted, and where he wanted to go was right here, so he could punch Ebony Maw in the face, which is what he did. He only got 1 damage, but that was enough, and it has a push on it, which is why he's back there. That Ebony Maw is dazed, but Ebony Maw played Blood Despair. When an allied Black Order character would be dazed by an enemy effect, he can spend 3 to play this card. They can perform an attack before gaining the daze token. He did a Herald of Doom on Iron Man again. Didn't do well with the roll, honestly, but it did 1 damage, which is enough that he is gone. So he is off the table, unfortunately, but Ebony is dazed at least. Black Dwarf activated for the Black Order and is holding on to a book and only has 1 action because he shook the stagger. So he opted to hide behind a tree, as funny as that sounds, to block himself off from potentially Bucky just getting a random shot on him. I'm sure War Machine probably could, but it's less likely a 4 dice physical is going to do anything to him. So yeah, he's hiding behind a tree. He's generating enough points. They'll never see me. Never ever. Steve Rogers activated and he was just within range 4 of Supergiant, as in placing the range 4 ruler touch both their bases as minimally as possible, but it is in range. So he chucked the shield at her. It would have done 2 damage, but because of her ethereal rule, it does 1, but it makes her drop the book. So she dropped the book. It also ricocheted into the back of Proxima's head for 2 damage down to 1. He moved, picked up the book. Oh, he couldn't have moved back. Ah, actually, you know what? The book still has to be there. Unfortunately, he can't hold the book because of what else he needed to do in the turn. So the book will measure critically in a second, but it's still 2 away from her because he did 3 things on his turn, and that's plus he used a portal, and he can't use a portal when holding the book. So he paid 1 to use the portal and teleported into the center here, which does 1 damage to him. That's to help secure the center, and also so he could play till the end of the line as well. He and Bucky spend 2 each. While they're within 1 of each other, they can't be moved by enemy effects, and they combine their defenses when rolling for physical and energy. So unfortunately, thanks to that slight misplay, Supergiant was able to activate. She moved back up a little bit just within 1 to pick up the book that she was forced to drop, and then ran away again. Much in the same strategy as Black Dwarf, she's attempting to get behind that tree, although didn't have enough movement with her short movement. Either way, she's running away, so War Machine would have to leave the helping secure that to even hit her at range, and even if he did hit her at range, he would not be close enough to pick it up. Well, out of War Machine and Bucky, it was the Winter Soldier himself who activated. He had to shake the stagger he had for his first action. Then he used Hydro Tactics to be placed within 1 of War Machine again. Put him in range to fire his assault rifle, hoping just for some luck, really, against Proxima. That's not 2 reduced to 1, it's just 1 damage with a bleed, and then the follow-up assault rifle shot did nothing to her. So this is a bit of an interesting one, because if nothing changes as things are, the Black Order win at the end of this turn by getting to exactly 16, I believe. So, a bit of an interesting turn. Proxima Midnight activated and kept the bleed, so she's taken 1 damage from that. She did a Quantum Starburst, her big spender for 6 dice energy, does a bunch of stats effects if it does damage, on War Machine, because if War Machine doesn't get a turn, nothing can change in the current game state. If he gets a turn, he can possibly make Supergiant drop her objective, which at least would give the Avengers another turn. So she did that on him. Cap bodyguarded for him, took 2 damage, and was rolling a bunch of defense dice. Actually, he shouldn't have had the extra defense dice because Bucky moved away. Ah, that could have changed things. Unfortunately, no way to go back now. But he also had, he can do this all day for being on his wounded side as well. So that could have been more damage. Well, we have to play on, unfortunately. He did 2 damage. He took the hit for War Machine. So then she did another Quantum Starburst because she was sitting on a lot of power. Because she's not used any. And then the Black Order have been generating a lot of power just from getting all these dazes and whatnot as well. And taking hits. So that one was also bodyguarded by Cap, also did 2 damage. I think he's 1 away from, or 2 away? Yeah, 2 away from being removed from the table now. But she had 1 power left over, so she's activating Husband of Corvus Glaive to mean that Corvus Glaive gets his turn before War Machine can interject. Cap still has enough power to bodyguard once. So he does have a range 4 attack if he wants to sit on that objective to try and make sure he holds it. Because War Machine is also healthy, so he could move over to that one, claim it, and shoot at Supergiant. So it just comes down to how well his 2 Atom Splitters, I think they're called, do. 4 dice energy, 2 shots, because Cap's going to take the first one and die to it. So we'll be back with that. So we're back after those rolls, and the husband and wife duo have succeeded. Also, very carefully measuring that Corvus is within 4 of War Machine. It's just barely again. So he did the first one, Cap bodyguarded, only took 1 damage from that, so he's still on his feet, but didn't have enough power to do another one. Another bodyguard, that is. So then one more Atom Splitter at range, 4 dice energy against 3 energy defense on War Machine. It did 1 damage. That's enough that he's dazed. Still, he's not removed from the table, but the dazing is the important part because he's no longer on his healthy side. He doesn't get a turn, and that takes us to the final scoring. So at the end of the battle round, the game actually technically is not over. I thought with the 3 books being held by the Black Order for 3 victory points, and the flaming portal was underneath Corvus there, that was enough to take them to 16. That is not. It takes them to 15 because they were on 11, not 12. So they only need 1 more point to win. The Avengers gain 2 victory points that turn, 1 for the Hulk holding the back portal, 1 for Cap and War Machine, sorry, just Cap, holding the central one, taking them to 7. We're still going to end the game there though, because the Avengers will have first action. They can either go and take out Black Dwarf, or go and take out, or make her drop, Supergiant drop the objective. She's behind the tree there. No matter which one they go after, the other is going to activate and run away. Even if they manage to somehow get both of them, they're then going to try and remove these 2 from the board, because they're all on their wounded side as well. Bucky's 1 away from being removed from the table. Steve is 1 away from being removed from the table. War Machine will have his full health on his day side, but that's not enough. Even if they scored the maximum number of points available to them without chasing down someone holding a book, the 1 book is enough that the Black Order will win, and the point difference means that the Avengers can't even get close to the 16, so it wouldn't even be a draw. So there is no need to carry on. The Black Order have won the day. So some final thoughts. All in all, that was a very interesting showing. The first time the Black Order have been on the channel for a long time, and maybe the first time ever they've had more than 3 or 4 models with the new leader you can have. Corvus Glaive obviously being much cheaper than Thanos, and his affiliation bonus is better, I think. Like, Thanos is one, sure, if you're going against a spam list where there's a bunch of people you can easily eventually kill without Thanos flipping his card to the less good side, then yeah, you might get some extra victory points. But Corvus feeding power to everybody, 1 power to everybody anytime someone was dazed or removed from the table. It's a little trickle of extra power, but it really added up, and they just kept on having enough power to do a lot of stuff in their turns. It wasn't even because of Supergiant, really. Like, she's the new model on the table. She didn't do that much, to be honest. It's fun that she can take hits from physical attacks and just brush them off. Bad that she drops objectives when that happens, but she just shrugs them off. You could do 10 physical damage and it's reduced down to 1. Which means really you should be going after her with energy and Mystic, of course, which this particular Avengers list was missing, and that was obviously an oversight in its selection. They were mostly relying on physical attacks, with the exception of Thunderclap and Unibeam. Unibeam's a flip side card. They were all physical, so it was a very poor choice with what they were going up against. Ebony Maw being able to use his Mystic Defense unless you can pay extra was also pretty rough. The Hulk is great. The new Hulk is great, but you can still just ignore him and drown him in status effects if you don't want to ignore him, and that will still hinder him. I think he does have some immunities now besides poison. Yeah, he's immune to stun now, so that's a little bit of extra bonus. It's annoying that you can still ignore him, but he definitely feels far more threatening, and there was a couple of times his dice rolls, particularly when Proxima was here, he was not rolling as much as he should have. It sucks. There was definitely more bad rolls for the Avengers side than there was the Black Order, but the Black Order came out on top, fair and square. They were winning the fight and winning points as well. So next time the Black Order will probably be back, might be with Thanos, don't know yet, but Black Swan will be joining Supergiant, so we can see both the new Black Order people on the table. New Ebony Maw, I mean, he beat the living snot out of Iron Man, just picked on him, easily decimated him. The biggest change for him is definitely being able to use that Mystic Defense against most things. It's such a massive help when you have 6 defense dice. So he's a lot more sturdy than he used to be, and that definitely helps. It took the Hulk punching him in the face to actually daze him. So yeah, it came down to more or less the husband-wife team doing their combo attack to take out War Machine, who Captain America was desperately trying to defend, but didn't quite work out in the Avengers' favour this time. But that's okay. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you very much for doing so, and see you in the future for more. Until next time, ta-ta for now.